Okay, I'll call this meeting of the Kerrville Planning and Zoning Commission to order. And Dorothy, would you call roll, please? Here.
Harmon. Here. Don Barnett. Doyle Malone.
Here.
Bill Morgan.
Here.
Michael Siegerman. Rustin Zuber.
Here.
Glenn Andrew.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum. Number one on the agenda, Visitor Citizens Forum. Any person with business not scheduled on the agenda is encouraged to briefly speak their ideas to the commission. Please fill out the speaker request form, give it to the commission secretary prior to the meeting. The number of speakers will be limited to the first 10 speakers, each speaker limited to 3 minutes. No formal action can be taken on these items as the Open Meetings Act requires formal action. Items to be posted on an agenda no later than 72 hours before the meeting. If formal action is required, the items will be placed on an agenda for a future meeting. Item number 2, public hearings and action. 2A, public hearing and action on a replat at 207 Canyon Creek Lane East. Trent?
Thank you. The legal description is as mentioned in your packet, so we can have that on record. It is located at 207 Canyon Creek Lane. Staff did mail out notices to all property owners within 200 feet. We sent out 30, 0 came back in favor, 0 in opposition. I did receive 1 call, just more curious of what was going on. After I told them what they were doing, they were completely okay with this replat. The replat does meet all the guidelines in accordance with the subdivision ordinance, 10-4 of the City of Kerrville subdivision ordinance. Staff does recommend approval, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Hey, thank you. This calls for a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing at 4:32. Anyone wishing to speak before this commission, I ask that you go to the podium. Give us your name and your address, please. Seeing none, I close this public hearing at 4:33. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Trent, it looks like we're just combining 2 lots into one.
Yes, part of one lot and with another lot. Correct, yes, sir.
Is this where the appraisal district's going to go?
No, this is
No,
a different
it's a
property.
different
This is
one.
off of Canyon Creek Lane.
This is which?
This
Is
is
this
off
one?
of Canyon Creek Lane. It's
Oh,
a
okay.
residential structure. Item 2A.
I was looking at this.
Okay, if no comments, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the replat as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Raise your hand. Approved 5-0. Okay, on number 3 for consideration and action.
I need to recuse myself from the next item.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Okay, this is for consideration and action on a final plat for 2190 Mender Highway, State Highway 173. Trent?
Yes, once again, this is located at 2190 Bandera Highway. It's a proposed final plat. When the packets were mailed out to you, staff was recommending denial of the final plat due to the infrastructure on the site, which needed to be completed or guaranteed money or letter of credit needed to be submitted to the city. Later on, they did go ahead and submit those. Staff would like to go ahead and amend their recommendation to approval, noting that they are meeting all requirements, Article 10-4 of the City of Kerrville Subdivision Ordinance, and this is where supposedly the new Kerr County Appraisal District office building will be located on Lot 2. And this does not require a public hearing, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay, so you're satisfied
Yes.
as to the
And our-
reasons you declined it initially?
Right, our city engineer is also satisfied. They did go ahead and put money down in place of doing the infrastructure, so. they've
Is
done all-
that a
they've-
letter of credit or certified funds?
They did, they actually did certified funds
Okay.
with the city.
Any comments from the commission? We've talked about this property before. And I think you were asking Bill if this is a site for the new
The front
appraisal
part,
district?
the front part of it, I understand, is not where the appraisal district is, it's going at the back part of that.
That's right.
I wonder, does anybody know what's going in the front or anything?
It's not required to be stated at this time. I believe it's just, you'd have to ask the owner of the property of what their intention is with the Lot 1. But we have not received any plans for it as of yet.
The owner being the appraisal district.
I believe the owner is it?
IQ Investments.
Thank you.
President off top, one of the principals of that.
Right.
And he's the one that will be signing our plat for it.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Justin McDonald. I'm the Secretary of the Board for the Kerr Central Appraisal District. Just to be clear, we have Lot 2 under contract to purchase for our new office location. However, we do not currently own that today. We're scheduled to close next week, but we don't have any affiliation with the current owner or with what's going to happen on Lot 1.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
But I am here for any questions that you might have regarding Lot 2 if you do have any.
Any questions? We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
I move they approved as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign, passes 4-0. You're not supposed to be listening, but apparently that's okay.
I can listen, I can't send any hand signals.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Garrett. Okay, having noted that Garrett's has joined us back on the commission. Okay, 3B is consideration and action for a final plat on 1401 and 1405 Sidney Baker Street. Trent?
Thank you. You've seen the preliminary plat here in the last couple months. This is the kind of same situation as the last case that we just heard, item 3A. At the time, they've been working on their infrastructure, trying to get it completed. They could not meet the deadline, so they went ahead and put down certified funds with the city in order to meet that requirement. Staff would like to go ahead and amend their recommendation to approval. The engineer has also signed off on this, knowing that the funds that they're providing has met all the requirements. This does not require a public hearing, and I'm here if you have any questions.
We talked before about this and being some kind of a shared ingress egress to the adjacent property. This is the same property?
Yes, sir. You talked about the potential of putting an access easement in the front to the adjacent property. It's not a requirement by the city code, but that was something that they would think about and discuss amongst themselves. The difference between the preliminary plat and the final plat, some of the changes were there is a 15-foot public utility easement now in the front of the lot. If you see off Sidney Baker, there's a 15-foot wide public utility easement to address various public utilities.
And Trent, you probably discussed this on the last case, but I couldn't hear very well on the monitors outside. Explain again to me the reason for requiring the sidewalks and infrastructure prior to construction. I guess this property is already being developed, correct?
Right. And so before any kind of certificate of occupancy is issued, the infrastructure needs to be complete. The sidewalks need to be completed as part of it before a final plat can be recorded. They can't receive any sort of certificate of occupancy until a final plat is recorded. They take that chance of building up without, if they don't complete this up to city standards, and that's why we require these funds, or the infrastructure be completed prior to final plat being recorded.
Okay. But construction can start before final plat.
Right. Generally, that's how it does work. We would prefer the infrastructure be completed prior to moving up because it does cause issues. It can take longer, but they can go ahead and do it side by side. But we generally like to try to get the infrastructure in first.
Okay.
And the city's holding funds to make sure that those things happen.
Right. If for some reason, the reason why the city holds funds, this is common amongst every city you try to plat in, is in case the property goes to default, the city can use those funds to finish the infrastructure up to city standards. Especially if it's been platted in a certain way. Usually properties are platted in a certain way to address a certain use. And that can cause issues for future owners if the infrastructure is not done completely or correctly. And so that's why we hold these funds.
Mr. Vogel?
I'm Don Vocal, Kerrville, Texas. I'm not involved in this project whatsoever, but I do projects similar to this all the time. And I just wanted to think that I'm understanding clearly what's going on. The way this is being platted, there's a front lot and a back lot. And the front lot, they have a public easement that begins behind a private easement going back to the second lot. And that's going to be the access to the second lot. And I've only been to do this like 40 years, so I've never had a situation where they've allowed us to do this before. And I'm just wanting to make sure I understand that this is going to be okay from now on. Are we going to be able to plat properties without frontage and give a public easement and not build a, normally we have to, in the past, have built a street and a cul-de-sac. Well, that's not being done here. And I just want to know if y'all allow this, or are you going to let me bring my client in? And I don't even have a future client, but if I do, I just want y'all to know that, you know, that other people are going to expect to get away with this if this goes through. And I have nothing to do with this project. I'm not the engineer or the surveyor or the owner or anything, but I have clients that would be interested in seeing that if this happens, is this something that y'all are going to start allowing to do? I just want that to be understood before y'all vote, that there may be other people coming in asking for this, and this is contrary to what's been in the rules and been required. And I'm not sure Trent may know if there's some exception, but that's my concern is that a public easement's crossing a private easement at the street, connecting up a lot in the back that has no frontage, no cul-de-sac, no public street, no curbs, gutters, everything. So I just want to throw that out for y'all's discussion, because to me, it's not opening up a can of worms, but it's just kind of allowing this to happen. I don't see how you can stop it from happening in the future. If somebody comes in with a similar project and you let them get away with it now, you're going to have to let them get away with it in the future.
So what you're saying is that if they're proceeding with construction on this front piece without going ahead and doing the infrastructure of the public access to the back piece.
Well, not only that, but the fact that this is being done without building a street with a cul-de-sac that in the past we've had to do every time. Y'all are allowing a public access to the backtrack from Highway 16 across a private easement. So you got a public easement coming to the private easement, then crossing it to get to the public street. They don't, in my, I don't see them connecting. And I'm not saying that that's a problem. I'm just saying that this is not the way it's been done in the years I've been doing this. And I don't, and that's why I'm asking if Trent knows if there's an exception, because, and I'm not saying y'all shouldn't do this, but if you do this, just know that this could open up the same situation for future clients. And in the past, we've had to build public streets with a cul-de-sac, 100-foot diameter cul-de-sac for a turnaround. Well, none of that's being done here. And again, I'm not the engineer. I don't even know who's doing this or what, but I've just have to be here, and I just wanted to bring it in front of y'all.
No, I
Y'all-
appreciate it.
Y'all have the total right to approve this, and I'm not saying don't approve it, but just be aware that if this gets approved, you've kind of set a precedent for the future, for this to keep happening. So that's, if y'all have any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, so what you've normally seen historically is that public easement, that road's already been put in down that side with a cul-de-sac to allow for, I guess, 911 vehicles.
And
or
access to the
whatever.
backtrack, fire protection, everything. So, and there again, I'm not trying to
I
get
mean,
y'all
that's a
not
valid
to
point.
approve it, but it's just a situation that we have, as an engineer working here for 40 years, I've never seen this approved in this fashion.
Trent, can you address those questions?
Yes, just give me 1 second. I do apologize.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
So this would be considered a flag lot. There is an access easement going from Sidney Baker to lot 2. There's also another access easement going from lot 1 to that, which is currently Aaron's next door. Within the development site plan, you're right. On what you're referring to, this cul-de-sac is to provide for fire, EMS. Part of the development site plan, they do have a cul-de-sac. They will meet all fire code and requirements so far. Part of the building permit phase, we also look at that. In our code, there's nothing stating that they can't have a flag lot according to our subdivision ordinance or state code. I'm just looking at the state code right now as well, seeing if there's anything, any provisions against a flag lot. And so far, I haven't been able to find anything.
Where would the cul-de-sac be, in lot 2?
Right now, yeah, it goes off of lot 2. When they do develop lot 2, they will have to still make sure they meet all fire code requirements when it comes to building. But there is a cul-de-sac that goes into lot 2 for that's on the development site plan that has been approved.
Yes, sir.
I'm Lee Vocal from Vocal Land Surveying. I just was had a comment on what Trent said about this being a flag lot, and I apologize. The plat I saw was a real small one, and it looked to me like Lot 2 did not go with fee title to the road. There was an easement. Well, Lot 2 is not a flag lot if there's no fee, in my opinion, it's not a flag lot if it doesn't have fee title to the road. I think when they refer to a flag lot, that lot actually is owned with right-of-way to the along the right-of-way of the road.
And has direct access.
That's correct. It has
Okay.
direct access with not an easement. And I will confirm what my brother said. Normally, when you're doing these public easements, a road is required as part of the development. Now, this may be requiring a road. I haven't been involved or seen that anywhere. The other concern I had, and it was a question, is at the top where that easement actually gets to Highway 27, the public right of 16, the public right-of-way of 16 is not contiguous, at least on the plat I saw, with the right-of-way of the public easement. There's a gap in there, a little triangular gap, which it had on the plat a private easement. I don't know how you go from a public right-of-way across private property back to a public right-of-way. Again, just a question I had on mechanics of that. To me should all be public right-of-way, or at least they should be contiguous with the right-of-way of the street.
So you're talking about the private driveway easement?
Yes, sir. And
Up
again,
there
I
on Sidney
apologize.
Baker.
The plat I had was very small, but it looked like there's a little triangle there at the corner of that property that divides the right-of-way of Highway 16 and the right-of-way of the dedicated public easement being dedicated by this plat, the gap there. Again, I may be wrong, but that was the way I was interpreting it. And I don't know how you cross private property without the proper easement to get to the back lot. It's not public all the way.
Right. So Trent, should that private driveway easement be a public easement? Or, I guess it depends on how it's written, if it makes a difference or not.
Right, sorry, I'm just looking at the plat real quick. I guess I'm not really clear of what Lee was talking about with the triangle portion on the plat.
Well, it says private driveway easement, volume 59, page 534.
This little spot right here.
Right, this extends all the way
I think this property is
Right.
all owned by the same
right
person.
here.
Right.
This is the dot line going.
But this is called out as private driveway easement.
Right, but then right here, they're also the 25-foot public access and City of Kerrville utility easement. Right here is where they're declaring
I
as
guess
public
my
access
question
on
is the
that
same ownership.
Okay.
on the side.
Then
Yeah, on this side, but what
They
about
can-
right here?
That's
develop
what's
the front
there's currently
piece without
recorded
it.
in private driveway
But they
easement
do
right now.
need to
That's
turn
what they're
around
before.
here
That's
somewhere
what they're referring to.
where they can get to
But
the
when they
back.
came in, we required them
But
to
they-
provide public access
but it may
easement
not
all the way
be-
through.
Is there a problem
What they're
crossing
saying
this even if it's considered
is-
private?
even on their plans,
Driveway
don't show
easement.
that they have a
Not from what I.
cul-de-sac here.
But if it's all one
I'm pretty
person,
quick.
Well, as long as
I'm gonna
9/11
go,
can
if
get-
you don't mind, Mr. Waller, I'm gonna go get a second opinion real quick. Go get a reference. I'll be right back if that's all right.
Sure.
So if you want to go into recess.
I mean, those questions are fairly significant.
No, they are, and I'm gonna. There's a public access. I see what triangle he was talking about. Garrett pointed that out. I thought we were okay. I'm just gonna get a second opinion on that. See if they can reference the if there's a different interpretation than what I
And
have.
also on the flag lot,
Right. I'll double check on that.
Are
So-
these the same owner for lot one and lot two?
Yes, sir. Same owner of lot 1 and lot 2. I don't know the future. Be right back.
you know, if it's the same owner, they can build this the way they're talking about. And put this cul-de-sac here
Well, that
without having to do anything.
that cul-de-sac can only go,
It just has to
anywhere.
give access to here.
and then when it gets developed, it could be a cul-de-sac, it could be a loop road.
But see, if it's the same owner, then I don't see the flag lot concept being as big a concern,
I think,
unless they go to sell
I
this
think their
piece separately.
concern is that this is kind of a laxed interpretation compared to what they're used to dealing with.
But I think what Trent said is their plans call for a road and a cul-de-sac. It just doesn't show it here.
Right, right, and I think,
But what he's saying usually, that's part of the infrastructure is put in place before you start to work on the property. Otherwise, but there's money set aside to assure that it can be done. But I'm not sure the money they got set aside is a future problem to complete all. But that's what's on the plan.
Yeah,
Because this really,
could be.
the only way this was a flag lot is if this is owned separately from the people that own this. I mean, I wouldn't finesse this without this being more than an easement.
and the concern is that if this is
That
private
that's a
driveway
good point.
easement, and we come in and, this person that owns this property then has grounds for,
So that's their access to this property. Is what you're saying?
I'm saying
To Aaron's.
that technically, where this easement's located, we're crossing this person's property. This doesn't say public easement, it says private. And so we could end up in a mess. You know, this probably needs to be changed.
Because the
The
private
public.
drive shouldn't start until after the public.
Yeah, because this is called out as public,
Yeah.
but it doesn't make it, so
Unless it's a flag lot, which is what we're saying, then that would be part of this.
it gives this person
This is
grounds
gonna
for,
be a headache right there.
forcing
with
the city to
intersections
buy it
the way
from
it is there anyhow.
or,
I mean, if we're looking at this, it could be a potential.
it's a little bitty spot, but it's an important.
We don't
That's
want to
just,
set
that's one
precedent
issue of the,
Mhm.
without really looking into this thing in more
I think
detail.
the easement and Don's concerns about the road,
if
that
it was a true
doesn't bother me.
flag lot,
Um,
that would be,
It's
that
that
would
one
go with
corner.
this.
This is a
Because if
concern.
it's just an
Because
easement,
I think
then
what
this
Trent
person
said
gives
is they
them
do
an
have the
easement,
road
but
and
they
the
don't have to
cul-de-sac in
maintain it or anything.
in their
And that could go
Mhm.
to
construction
Their
plans.
development site plan, yeah.
Be a traffic problem looking at the intersection.
And they own this property. If this was owned separately, that'd be a concern to me, especially if I wouldn't loan on it just based on that easement.
So the other,
Unless it's,
so a flag lot is one option, the other option would be an actual public street.
To resolve getting that private out of there and making that public some way.
And they would have to build it probably to there and stop at that point.
That's 12 feet. There's 12 feet. City found a nail.
well, he said that the street, I thought, was in their
part of
building plan.
Part of the development site plan.
Up to that
Well,
point. with
however
the
they're
cul-
gonna
and
build it.
including the cul-de-sac. But I haven't seen those plans.
No, and with only a 25-foot easement, you hardly do a street in there, that normally goes.
Right, there's no access unless
Mhm.
there's public access.
Well, what is that easement perpendicular to it?
You can't, I thought you could give them access to
This one,
Well,
This
there's
is
already
just
some kind of
saying-
turn in there
an
to
easement
Aaron's
onto this property right here,
off of City Baker.
which means
It's behind Aaron.
So
they
I'm
can
not
actually
sure,
get into the parking lot.
No.
Aaron's building is back here.
Okay.
this
There's
is
a
a
way
real estate
to
office, right?
Keep
I think
this
it's real estate office.
section of property line open.
I think so. That's a
They
sale.
were over on,
This,
Well,
24
access
feet
one is
seems
this
like
mitigate, this ain't this access here, they, I don't know where this
Yeah,
goes
and that's
off
where-
Aaron's.
You know,
If that public.
I guess I'm
access-
hesitant
Aaron's down back.
to make a rush decision on something that we don't have to.
But I don't know what this.
Sounds like a country lane.
Well, really all it needs
Not
to
with
be
two
is wide enough
concerns.
for emergency vehicles.
This is one that's gonna have to be cured besides
I don't
just,
think it needs to be a two-way street with right of
let's see,
way and everything
if we
else.
had the
I think that's
development
getting
plan, we could
excessive.
see where that street.
You know, if you had
Yeah,
five lots,
most of the time that goes in first.
then that's something different. Just to a single lot.
rear development that just tried to sell it.
Well, that's the same guy who owns the building.
And
See,
in
if they
this
try
case,
to
we
sell
do.
this, I'd be
Same
hesitant
owner
as a
on both of
lender
those.
What is
to
he
lend
doing
on a
here?
flag lot with that.
I've seen a sign,
the
but
easement.
it's past
And it's not even a
2,000.
flag lot without
I think
strip going.
one
But
building
if
is a
this
real
was
estate
public
office, another building is a workout
access all the way
facility,
back,
and I think they're planning
then I
on
don't have a problem,
storage.
because it's like a city street.
That's not what it's, that's not the way it's laid out, I agree with that totally.
Yeah,
I understand your point.
30, what do they say?
Are you designing a building for the
What's
appraisal?
required for a city street?
It's gonna be one story or two?
That's
It's just
pretty
gonna be
narrow.
one story,
Yeah, I'm thinking it's
5,000
30,
square
40,
feet.
depending on what the speed.
Pretty economical, but a whole lot better than what they got.
What's a normal width of a city street?
Normal width on the right of way is 50 feet, and then you got 10 feet on each side to curb, and
So
so
30?
yeah, 30 typically is curb to curb.
But you need right of way on each side as well.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, I think
Even
that's
into something like this.
I think that's excessive for this case. You know, if you had multiple lots back there, that would be a different story. But I think with one lot owned by the same person,
So the edge of the street can actually butt right up to that property. That's what you're saying, to that adjacent property.
that the city would have, well, yeah. I think that's excessive. I don't think doing a,
I don't think there's enough room now that the building's in.
You know, I'm not comfortable just on checking on something like this with two points of contention. I don't think this is they're already working on it. It wouldn't bother me at all to table this, but since they're not going to be able to change that unless they get some kind of ruling
I think
that it doesn't make any difference.
the access doesn't bother me. This little
It's that-
piece of property, this little corner up here, I have some concerns with. Because I could just open the door for that adjacent property owner
To block that access.
or to say, hey, this
You
is a
have to pay me
private,
for it.
you have to pay me for it, or I'll sue you, or whatever.
So they need to get something maybe from that
Probably.
property owner that says, I'll dedicate this to public access. But really this, you know, you think, I guess my thought is the final plat usually come before you start working on something. Well, especially because what Trent was saying, you know, they're having to take their word that they'll do the infrastructure. And it may not be correct.
Well, I mean, they're holding $40,000 for it.
It doesn't go very far where if you end up having to build a road.
I personally don't think a road is necessary to feed a single lot. I think a 25-foot access easement. And with,
As long as you got access on the front, but you have to have room for a 911 vehicle to go in there and turn around.
well, and you also have to meet the weight, the codes on the construction of that road. And that's all handled on the
See, because
site
what's going to
development
happen, the building's going to be probably back there. So they have to be able to get to that. And for fire, even though the front's probably going to be all concrete anyway.
And all of that has already been addressed with the development site plan.
It probably would be a good place for apartments.
The terrain is pretty tough, though.
Looks like it bounces around all over the place.
It's a pretty considerable drop.
Well, 10 foot, 13 feet. But to build on, you have to build that up quite a bit.
Well, and you have to terrace it. And you can do that, but, you know, and that's probably what they'll do with just about anything that they do through there. If you're doing multiple buildings, they're all going to be at different heights.
When Lee comes back, if he doesn't have some kind of clarity on that issue, I don't think we can make that change today.
So, in talking with, getting a second reference, so in the subdivision ordinance, it states that there just has to be some sort of access. It does not necessarily state that it has to have frontage on a street, but it has to have access, which the Planning and Zoning Commission can approve that access. The zoning code states, the definition of the law is land which is occupied or intended to be occupied by a building, a group of buildings, and their accessory buildings, together with such yards and open spaces are required by the zoning code, and having frontage upon a street or other access approved by the commission. So the subdivision doesn't necessarily require you having frontage on the street, and the zoning code makes that determination of what a lot is, either having frontage upon a street or other access as approved by the commission. So that would be up to you if you'd like to approve that. However, let me go back to the triangle piece of not having adequate access. We do feel there could be some issues with that. Whoever owns that could block that off. And so the owner would probably need to somehow purchase that piece of property right there or get it become a public access easement
Or get some approval from that property owner adjacent
to make it a public
to
access easement.
convert it to a public access.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think personally, my thought is we need to get that issue clarified.
Right, and the issue with the plat is there's a timeline by state requirement saying you have to either approve or deny a plat within so many days. If you do not make an action within those days, it's automatically approved as presented. So you do need to make a decision to either approve or deny the plat as presented.
Can we do a decision contingent on
You can't
that triangle piece?
you can't do conditions on a plat.
And if we don't do anything, it's gonna automatically be done.
It'll
Right, yes, sir.
automatically be approved if it's not.
Right, and so the other option would be for, if you were to deny this, they get that changed to a public access easement, so they do have access, and bring back the final plat to you with that changed as a public access, that
That's
little
the
triangle.
That sounds like that's what
Yeah,
needs
that's
to
the
be
answer.
done.
So,
Kind of a catch-22.
Do I have a motion?
I move that we deny the plat as presented.
I second.
Have a motion? Yes, sir.
We've been working on this plat, and the preliminary plat already got approved, the way it is. We've got, people we're trying to get moved into that building. I understand y'all are not having a planning and zoning meeting next time.
right, with that, I'll explain that. We weren't gonna have a meeting 1st of July because my wife is expecting, to give birth right around that time. So, but I could probably make arrangements to probably get Kyle, the city engineer, or possibly even Todd to present in my place. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, I mean, just 'cause
I
we-
think this issue is a concern enough to us that we need to get it clarified before we do a final approval. And we don't have a choice except to decline it or accept it.
Right, and I'm just making the point that that was on there when we did the preliminary.
Right, and that was
and
something that
nobody-
was missed,
And
so.
nobody said anything, and we're in a time crunch here, we're trying to get this building done, we've got, I know that's no concern of y'all's, but the fact that y'all weren't having a meeting in 2 weeks, that, it does,
I know, once again, I'll find someone to present instead of me at that meeting, so we can still have that first meeting in July.
thank you, Trent.
I'll figure out something.
That'd be fine. I
Okay.
think that, especially if that's the only issue.
Yes, sir.
I feel that we're leaving the door open for some liability on the city's part there, if we don't get that resolved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. It's declined 5-0. And thank y'all for bringing that up.
So we'll have a meeting then on July the 7th.
Yes, sir.
Well, that puts the impetus on the owners to get that taken care of. Okay, item number 4, staff reports.
We will have a meeting on July 7th.
July 7th.
I most likely will not be here, but we'll find someone to present, because it shouldn't be, hopefully the issue's resolved by then, that we can get it figured out, and so it shouldn't be anything too difficult on July 7th.
And just to re-clarify what you stated earlier, Trent, this particular property already has a development plan that shows that public access
Yes, sir.
going back to lot number 2.
Yes, sir.
Is that going to be a street or just access?
It's gonna be an access easement.
But it's
gonna be-
public, okay.
Right. Yes, sir.
And I presume most of that up front's going to be concrete and parking anyway?
Yes, sir. There's going to be a parking lot in the front. For lot 1, we have the development site plan approved. Lot 2, there still need there has not been a development site plan submitted to the city as of yet, but they're in the works of getting one submitted.
No, it's only the first part.
Right, yes, sir.
We have a lot one.
But lot 1, the development site plan does meet all fire code requirements for access.
Okay, any other business before this commission today?
That'll be it.
If not, I'll accept it. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.